The following is a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of the advertiser. Opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And good morning to everyone out there. Good Sunday morning. I'm Chris Creston, and we are here for another installment of Your Life, Your Money with Kelvin, the Money Guy. This is a show where we talk about your life and your money. It's very aptly named. There was a meeting, and we said, what should we call the show? Well, what do we talk about? We talk about your life, and we talk about your money. And they said, that sounds like a great name. So that is the backstory. That's the origin story. And there's a whole lot more to it, but it all goes into decades of experience from Kelvin, the Money Guy, as a financial advisor, one of the top in the country, as named by his peers and by publications, and just one of the greatest guys that I've had a pleasure of getting to know over the years here at Chorus Radio and Global News Radio 640 Toronto. And might as well get him to join the show right now. Kelvin, the Money Guy, is here to help us talk about so many things. And the main overarching topic is going to be retirement, as so often it is when we're dealing with your life and your money, and what it is that you're doing to work every single day, and what it is that you're doing so that you don't have to work every single day when you get older. Kelvin, how you doing today?
Hey, Chris. Good morning. How's everything?
It's good. It's a warm weekend here, pretty hot in the city, and the parks are jammed with people because there's not that much else to do, and it's been an interesting year and a bit, and I think that we're all sort of itching to get as back to normal life as possible.
Well, first, before we start the show, your life is not going to be normal. So I just want to say congratulations. You're having twins, girl and boy, you and Christine.
Yes,
wow.
Thank you. Thanks for saying so. Yeah, it's a pretty big change going from 0 kids and lots of money to 2 kids and no money. So we'll see how that rolls out. But it's very exciting. We're
and you're leaving your condo.
A couple of kids very soon. Yeah, sold the condo.
Getting to a new house.
Exactly. Bought a house in York Region and the suburbs. It's a whole change of the chapter here in the Creston family. We're making a lot of big changes. So I'm sure that's going to come up as a topic of conversation as we dig deeper into your life and your money, dealing with not just retirement, but how do you get by when you've all of a sudden added 2 mouths to feed and a bigger house to heat and all those problems.
Well, the big decision for you is when you get the minivan.
I know that's what my father-in-law said too. He said maybe you should get a. We were saying, well, we should probably get an SUV. He said, well, maybe you should get a minivan. I don't know if we're going to try to avoid the minivan if possible. Nothing against minivans. They're very good utilitarian vehicles for moving people and things from place to place. They just never look great. And as good as a minivan can look, and there's some good ones out there. I see them on the road, and I see the people driving them, and they don't seem that happy. But we'll have to wait and see. I could spend a couple years driving an SUV and thinking I don't have enough room, and carting kids and cousins and friends and whatnot around. I might end up wanting those extra seats and that extra space. So we'll have to wait and see. The minivan may be an option in the future.
You and Christine will appreciate it in the winter when you have to change the kids in the car.
Right. Oh, didn't even think about that. See, this is why I need the experience of someone who's been there before. And it's not just in the financial world, it's also in the parenting world, because you're a father of 2 yourself.
Mm-hmm. So anyhow, I'm sure everything will work out well for you guys, and congratulations. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. We'll definitely have to do a show I'm going to use this show to prepare me. So I'll be a little selfish, and hopefully will help prepare some other people out there who either have, kids who are having kids, or they're having kids themselves and need to learn a little bit about how to set up for a future that contains more than just yourself.
Yeah, actually, no, that's a great topic. Probably next show I'll do it. I'll prepare for it. Well, I will talk about it. Um, this show is about retirement, the conundrum that we all gonna face when we retire, right?
Yeah, the retirement income conundrum, and it's just it is a bit of a conundrum. I think a lot of us don't really understand, or we're confused by it, and that we don't ask questions about it because of that confusion. And I think that that's one of the great things about having you, Kelvin, and having a financial advisor on your side is being able to ask these questions when you're not exactly sure. You think you recognize that there might be a problem or there may be some sort of paradox going on,
Hmm.
and there are answers out there, and that's what we're going to do this hour is try and solve that retirement income conundrum.
Well, retirement is funny. It started in 1889. The word retirement. First time it came about, 1889, and it came about from a German chancellor, Otto von Bismarck. And he started
Very cool.
retirement with you because what do you do after you work? How do you live? Money, things like that. And that's where
Hmm.
it invented, I guess, or came about in 1889. And interestingly enough, in the 1900s, the retirement age was 76. So,
Really?
yeah, so most people even didn't make it there.
Yeah, because
But
you got to
they
think
did,
the life expectancy wasn't even near that.
right? So pension plans was not a big deal back then because you probably never made it and didn't have to collect any pension. Interestingly enough, if you fast forward to 2010, the average retirement age is 64. And I would say if I look back now to 2020, I bet you it's probably gone down. I bet you it's probably 60, 60, 62. So we're living longer. Well, actually, we're going to live longer in retirement than in our working years. And there's the conundrum. What do
Right.
we do? Right? Typically, it used to be 4% of your 4% of withdrawal of your money would carry you through to retirement. But nowadays, because of inflation and things like that, um, I don't know if that's enough, if 4% is enough to get us through to our retirement. And that's why we need to rethink some assumptions about, retirement planning, um, the way we mix our funds and things like that. Typically, when you invest money, you take your age minus 100, and that'll tell you what portion of your money should be in fixed income or equities. So if you're 50 years old, half half. When you're 60, 40% is in equities, and the other part is in fixed income and so on. But because we're living longer, longevity and market trends, on lower returns, we really need to do some thinking about, is that the proper mix for me? So the traditional way of investing money, or accumulating retirement assets may not be appropriate now for the actual investor that's retired. So we really need to rethink. One thing the pandemic taught us about life is to rethink how we live, right? So I think the
Yeah.
pandemic is going to teach us how to rethink about how we invest our money going into the future.
Yeah. There's no hard and fast rule that's not something that we can change or something that we can pivot on or something that
Hmm.
we could rewrite. And I think that you're right. That is something that I think we've learned from the pandemic, that there really are no sort of sacred cows, that we have to make sure
Yeah.
that we are willing to rethink the things that we have taken for granted so many times. And I think that a lot of people, especially those of us who have got their financial plans on autopilot, are
Hmm.
sort of thinking, all right, well, this is the way that I started the ball rolling. And if you started the ball rolling 30 years ago, things have changed. You think about the way the world was 30 years
Yes.
ago, in
Yeah.
1990, 1991. Uh, that's crazy to think that that was 30 years ago, but it really was. And the world was vastly
They
different. And there's so
Yeah.
much so much has changed in your retirement plan at
and
that point.
and that's why this decade on a go forward is going to be like the 1990s when you look at money, and I'll get into that maybe after the break. Because remember, 30 years ago we were young and saving for retirement. So a lot of things were different. Now, fast forward 30 years later, that 30-year-old person is 60, and that person is going to live till 90. So if you invest your money the way to accumulate money, it's not going to work. So we as advisors, along with clients, have to take a relook at what we do and how we approach our clients' portfolios and so on. So after the break, we'll get into that a little bit and talk about, the customary way of what we did before versus go forward.
Got to know where we've been to know where we're going, and that's what we're going to do on the other side of the break here with Your Life, Your Money with Kelvin, the Money Guy. Visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. You can call him anytime at 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. More of Your Life, Your Money coming up here on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Thank you so much for making us part of your Sunday morning. I'm Chris Creston, joined as always by Kelvin, the Money Guy. Don't forget to visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's ask, KELVIN.ca. And if you got a question or a comment, you want to reach out and you want to talk to Kelvin live on the air, you can always call us during the show at 416-870-6400. That's the same number you call all week long to get through to shows on Global News Radio, 416-870-6400. And today we're talking about the retirement income conundrum as we're getting older, as the retirement is changing. Retirement is the amount of time we're going to be living without working is getting longer, and that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's only a good thing if you've made sure that you've got a good plan and you've got a good advisor on your side, and making sure that you've plotted out the course to make sure that that's a comfortable retirement, and to make sure that your golden years are golden and you get to enjoy all these great things that retirement should offer.
Well, like I said, we as advisors have to take another look at how we approach our clients' portfolios. The customary way before was, a conservative, a balanced, or aggressive portfolio, right? But those things were designed for when people were younger, accumulating assets between the last, 10 to 30 years. And the businesses were focused, our business was focused on accumulation. Well, these portfolios that we built over those years, they're not designed to give you or provide a stable and predictable income into retirement over a long period of time. So we really have to rethink retirement. So the reason we need to rethink retirement is because of population demographics, right? Life expectancy, and the nature of fixed income. A long time ago, fixed income, GICs, things like that, were paying 5, 6, 7% more, even more. And we never had inflation to deal with. Now, because of the pandemic and all the money that's given away and so on, we're going to face a different future when it comes to not only our lives, but our money life. And to top that, the baby boom generation, people born between 1946 and 1964, are currently transitioning into retirement. They say in Canada, at least 500,000 people will retire over the next 15 years. So what happens now? Life expectancy is getting longer and longer. So we can't rely on our portfolios we built over the last 20 years to take us through retirement, because a lot of things have changed. I'm
sure the expectation of what you're going to do in retirement has probably changed a lot too, right? If you were to look, 30 years ago at what your, grandparents were doing in retirement, it's vastly different from what your parents are doing and from what you're going to be doing when you retire.
Yeah. And there's a 40% chance someone turning 65 today will live past 90.
Yeah.
So, like I say, we're going to live longer in retirement than we did in our working lives. So our time horizons and stuff has changed. Remember, there's 1,000 people a day turning 65, right?
Wow.
So the accumulation in retirement is equal to the time horizon of accumulation. So we're at that crossroads where we were 30 years ago. 30 years ago, we were 30. Today, we're 60. So we're in the same predicament, but instead of accumulation, decumulation. So if we start taking out 5, 6% of our money every year to live, um, to help with our pensions and so on, well, what will happen in 20 years from now? Will we run out of money? And by the way, the first pension plan was started by Amex years ago.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, they created the first pension plan. Who would thought,
Wow.
eh? And now look where we are, fast forward our world today. So with interest rates at a historic low, beginning of 2021, and all the uncertainty that central banks are holding on further, they don't want to increase rates unless they have to. So it looks like we're going to live in a low rate and a low yield environment longer than we thought. So returns on your investments based on interest rates may not be adequate um, for the upcoming generation of retirees. So we really need to rethink how we plan out our retirement. And
Yeah,
remember,
the rumors of, higher interest rates have been going on for a really long time, but they continue to go down. And with every sort of crisis that we've seen, interest
mhm,
rates have sort of been kept down as a way of making sure that they can fund all the money that they're spending on emergency funding for businesses, for individuals, for everything. When you look at how much money that is being spent south of the border in the United States, it looks like big spending is going to be on the agenda for a long time.
right.
And then as a result, their interest rates at this point are being kept low, and that helps them fund that kind of borrowing.
But because of that, inflation is going to hit again. And when
Right.
inflation comes, then what happens? What happens to our money? Remember, what used to cost $1 in the year 2000 costs $1.59 today.
Wow.
And that was without the pandemic and all the money that was
Hmm.
given away. So can you imagine over the next, so after the break, I'll talk more about diversifying, your risk exposure against asset allocation the way we did things before. So it's a new change of what we're doing. And if we don't change, Darwin says we die, right?
Right, exactly. So you got to keep moving forward. You got to pivot, and you've got to change to make sure that you're in the right financial shape for that retirement. We don't want to be all doom and gloom here, but you know
No,
what?
no, no.
Honestly, I think you got to be armed with this sort of information so that you can make the right decisions. And for a generation of people, and maybe a generation and a half that haven't really known a lot of inflation or a lot of the problems
Mhm.
that we're talking about here, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot
This is
for
a
us to
great
take in.
decade. This is going to be a great decade for money. We should embrace it. Don't worry about it. Make some changes, diversify what you're doing, and you will live great. It's a great decade, I think.
Great. So that is something to look forward to. And we'll be looking forward to the other side of the break where we continue talking about the retirement conundrum. Don't forget to visit Kelvin's website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And you can call him anytime at 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. Stay tuned to Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And welcome back to Your Life, Your Money. I'm Chris Creston, and I'm joined as always by Kelvin, the money guy. Don't forget, anytime that you're sitting by your computer or on your phone and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to know more about Kelvin, the money guy, I'd like to reach out to him, askkelvin.ca. You've got a question, don't ask Google, ask Kelvin. Askkelvin.ca is his website. That's askkelvin.ca. askkelvin.ca, and you can always give him a ring, 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And the thing is that a plan is really what you need, and a plan would get you moving forward. And I think so often, lack of planning scares people into sort of like a state of stasis, frozen animation. They find themselves not able to make a plan, and all you have to do is get that ball rolling. And what I think is, get a professional on your side, get someone who's an advisor who's been working with people for decades and helping people navigate the changes in the financial world for decades. And that's a guy like Kelvin, the money guy. 416-457-7526. Now, Kelvin, as we've been talking about this retirement income conundrum, talking about a system of retirement that has been sort of designed for accumulation, but not that well designed for decumulation. You were mentioning that advisors themselves, so you're looking at people like you doing the job that you do, need to change the way that they talk to their clients. How do you mean? What needs to be done on your end of the business?
Well, you brought up a good point at the beginning of our conversation. I think what's happening is people don't sit down or many people don't sit down and have a financial plan for themselves. I think it's because we in the financial industry has really led people astray in the sense that we tell them they need $1 million and it's not enough to retire. So it scares them, into sitting down thinking, well, I'll never accumulate that goal. I'll never get to that goal. So what's the point? So I'll just rely on Canada Pension and whatever and see what happens. So I think we have, as an industry, has, kind of scared people away. And if you do the math, you really don't need $1 million when you retire. If you have $500,000, 4% is $20,000 a year, plus your CPP, plus your old age, plus if you have a spouse, you're living okay. So we need to rethink that. But we as advisors, I think, from my point of view, from what I do, have changed. The pandemic has changed the way that our clients see life and the way that we see life, in the sense that before we said, take a lot of your money as you get to retirement and put it into fixed income. Well, we know now that that's not going to work because of what's going on in the world. So what we need to do is balance our clients' equity exposure with their risk level. So the more equity exposure and more market, the more you're exposed to stock markets, the more volatile you'll be. So maybe that's not your risk level. So you have to sit down with your advisor and assess your risk. And remember, there's a risk in not taking a risk, but you have to calculate that risk. So we as advisors need to change the types of conversations we're having with our clients and change their approaches to investments. Our job is to teach our clients how money works. What happens if interest rates go up or go down. Look at diversification of your portfolio and get them educated about money. I think what happens is we don't educate our clients in the sense that, we look at their statements, and if it goes up, they're happy. If it goes down, they're mad. But you need that up and down to get to where you want to get to in the future. So before, when you reach 65, 70, we always said in our industry was 100% equity is not good for you. But that's not necessarily high risk, because we have to outweigh that with inflation and GIC rates. So if you're earning 1% on your GIC, but inflation is now 2.2, well, guess what? You're losing 1% on your money. So you're not seeing that. So we really need.
So the risk of not taking a risk all of a sudden
is a big risk.
Is a bigger risk than actually going and putting more money into the stock market and getting more exposure in the market. And you have to think of that opportunity cost of, well, you know what, if I'm playing it safe, I'm actually behind. If I'm standing still, I'm going backwards.
And that's hence the conundrum, right?
Right.
So investment that offers low returns but preserve your capital. So if people want to invest their money and preserve their capital, you know, might still be attractive to many investors, but that is until we introduce inflation. And remember, we never had to put up with inflation for a long time, but it's coming back to us. So now we have to readjust and rethink about what we do. So 100% equity portfolio is not necessarily the highest risk. And that's why we as advisors have to, I would say, from my own opinion, is to have those conversations with client. And I think more importantly, as our clients are, turning 55, 60, to reach out to them, every quarter you know, and work to get them to where they want to get to. And don't just worry about the stock markets going up and down, up and down. The markets are going to go up and down regardless, Chris, if you're invested in it. They don't care about you. So reassess what you do with your money and you'll get to where you want to get to. So I was saying before the break that this decade reminds money people of the 1990s, where in 1990 to 1999, the average return on your money was about 16%. And back in 1993, 94, changed the world. Windows came out and it changed the world. Then the internet came out and took off. And we didn't go to Blockbuster anymore to rent that movie or the corner store anymore. We started watching it at home. Netflix and everything started to come out. And that changed the way that we live. Well, the pandemic now is going to change the way that we work and live again. Some people might not go back to the office. So be driving less. In 5 years from now, when you look back, cars might change. I think Ford or Volvo, somebody said that in 5 years from now, they don't want the regular combustible engine anymore. And I think we're heading there. So this decade is a decade of change. So if you want to make sure that you never run out of money, if you live past 90, you need to rejig your portfolio and look at things that you've done and change some of the traditional things that we've done in the past and have that conversation with your advisor. If you don't have an advisor, I always say, reach out to me. If you have one, call them and sit down and have that chat. Because this is a
good
great
time
time.
to throw
This
out your
decade.
phone number. Sorry to interrupt you, but if you're looking for a second opinion or if you don't have an advisor and you want to talk to Kelvin, the money guy, 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And the website, askkelvin.ca. askkelvin.ca. Sorry for interrupting, Kelvin. There is a whole world of change going on around us.
And the thing is, like you said, plan. So an investor's goals are a true benchmark of where they want to be. So you have to assess you. You have to assess your risk. You have to assess you, and put together a plan for you, so that every year, every 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, whatever it may be, that you're getting better and you're getting better. Money should double every 8 to 10 years, right? But you need to work it for that to happen. You don't just leave it alone and wish and hope. You've got to be really proactive and with your advisor and plan out that retirement. What's going to be my cat and work backwards. I always say live your life forward and your money life backwards. So determine how much money I'm going to need when I'm 65, right? And figure out your CPP in your old age. And how much money do I need to have now to supplement CPP in old age? I mean, we live in the best country in the world, I think. We have a lot of, social support. So what's my shortfall going to be? And then sit down and figure that out and work it backwards and say, and sit down with your advisor and revisit that every 3 months. And if you do so successfully, you'll be okay. Risk factors allows, advisors and investors to work together to formulate some type of investment strategy that'll better serve our clients. So figure out their goals and what their desired income is, that will take them into a longer retirement world. Remember, before you retired, I would say 30 years ago, you retired when you were 65 and you're passed away when you're 70 something, right? Well, today, some people are starting a new career at age 60. So it just tells us that we're living longer, and all the statistics are telling us that our life expectancy is being pushed forward and forward. I mean, we're eating healthy. The pandemic is making us walk more, so we're feeling better. Things like that, right? We're eating healthier, so
Yeah,
a
spending
lot
more
of
time
things happen.
outside, whether it's
Yeah.
going to the park, going for a walk, doing some gardening. But as you get older, all those things become a little bit harder too.
Well, I don't know if you want to be gardening when you're 70 because my wife had me move 14 yards of soil for the last little while, and my back is killing me, man. I don't want to be doing this when I'm 70. So maybe plan out so you could pay somebody to do it.
Right, exactly. Get someone a little younger to be doing that
Yeah.
when you're 70. Get a 65-year-old gardener out there helping you out, helping you carry that stuff. But there is so much that goes into it, and like you're talking about, the changes that can arise, and if you're making sure you're touching base with your advisor, or if you're an
Hmm.
advisor, making sure you're touching base with your clients, like you said, quarterly, every 3 months, you're making sure that you call up your advisor, or your advisor should be calling you and saying,
Yeah.
let's take a look at your portfolio and see where things are going and see what
Hmm.
needs to be changed in an ever-changing world. We're seeing, like you were mentioning, the way that cars are changing, that kind
Yeah.
of economic action, innovation, creative destruction. There's a lot that changes. There's a lot of stuff that you don't want your money in that process,
Hmm.
but there's a lot of opportunity to make something from nothing. And I know a lot
Yeah.
of young guys are really jazzed about investing in cannabis and stuff like that,
Right.
but that's an industry that is starting from scratch, and there's going to
Yeah.
be more and more industries that'll
Sure.
be starting from scratch, and that's an opportunity for investors to be making money.
And there's always opportunity in chaos, right?
Right.
So the world's in chaos. There's lots of opportunities there. We just have to sit back and think about how we're going to take advantage of these opportunities. And that's, I think, on a go forward is what we need to do, from my opinion, anyhow.
Great. When we come back, we'll continue talking about that retirement income conundrum. We'll chat more about your life and your money. Hey, that's the name of the show. Stay tuned to Your Life, Your Money. And don't forget Kelvin's website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And that's where you can find all kinds of information and more ways to get in touch with Kelvin, the money guy. Stay tuned to Your Life, Your Money here on Global News Radio, 640 Toronto.
You are listening to a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of or otherwise represent the advertiser. The opinions expressed therein are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
And thank you for making us part of your Sunday morning. I am Chris Creston, joined as always by Kelvin, the money guy. Don't forget, you can always reach him at 416-457-7526 or visit his website, askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. That's 416-457-PLAN for those of you who like words more than numbers. And, we've been talking about the retirement income conundrum. What's that all about? The changing way that we should look at retirement, the changing way Kelvin's saying that advisors have got to look at our retirement as they help us navigate it. And Kelvin, one of the things that you were saying earlier in the show was that investors' goals should be the benchmark, and I wanted you to expand a little bit on that.
So, yeah, I mean, before, when we look at the next 30 years and we look at our money and how we invested things, 100% fixed income portfolio is not necessarily a low risk. And 100% equity portfolio is not necessarily the highest risk. So we as advisors need to, be even more focused than ever on our investor goals and desired outcomes and on understanding our clients' investment risk. So risk versus cash flow needs is very important. That means looking at the client's goals as a true benchmark rather than industry standards. So our industry lays out certain things, but sometimes it's not necessarily what we need for our clients. So when it comes to retirement investment, I believe that's the solution. So a retirement solution will play a critical role in repositioning, our clients' investments to reflect the new economic reality that we're now going to face in Canada because of the pandemic. So that's where we need to get to, I think, over the next little while as we move into this decade, which will change. Remember, 2031 is 10 years away, and this is the decade that a lot of people are going to retire. Like I say, 1,000 Canadians are turning 65 every day. So we really need to make a fundamental shift in the way we see things, as advisors and as clients, and work together, and we'll get where we want to get to down the road.
And I think that's hugely important to think about, just the number of people who are going to retire. The Canada pension plan is something that you can only sort of rely on so much. You have to be making sure that you are planning and saving for yourself, and making sure that you're adjusting those plans so that, like you said, the 90s was a great time.
Yeah,
And the 2020s are going to be a great time too. There's so
I
much
think
innovation.
so.
There's so many opportunities. I honestly, there's a lot of doom and gloom with the pandemic and whatnot, but I really do feel like there's a lot of positive change happening, and it feels like it's the best time. Maybe, I've got to sort of tell myself this because I've got twins on the way, but I think it really is the best time to be alive, and the future looks bright. And as
It
long as
is.
you're, taking advantage of the changes that are happening,
Yeah.
you're going to have a bright future and a bright retirement.
Embrace the future because we're going to live in it, and a lot of bad things will come of it, but I think, more importantly, a lot of good things will come of it. It'll change the way our life is in for better. A lot of things that has happened. Think about when you go to the grocery now. The carts are clean. There's no
Hmm.
Kleenex and stuff in the cart
Right.
anymore, right? And they're not all over the parking lot anymore. So there's one good thing that's changed, right? So when it comes to money, you really need to embrace the changes and really look at your portfolio and see, what type of investments are you in? Are you more into fixed income, like what do you have? Don't just worry about your return. The returns will come if you invest your money properly and you revisit your money every 3 months or so, and know where you're going. You know, if you don't know where you're going, how do you know when you get there, right? And
Right.
like I say, and everybody is listening should go onto Service Canada and set up an account and look at your CPP. How much would I get when I'm 60 or 61 or 65 or 70? And work with your advisor and say, okay, this is how much you're going to get. This is when I want to retire, knowing that your old age will kick in when you're 65. So you need to know certain things. Retiring is not by chance. Retirement is by plan, not by chance. So sit down and figure out those things, and you will get there. And you will never have to worry about it. You'll never have to worry about your retirement. And like I say, set some short-term goals for yourself, because if you can achieve short-term goals, you can certainly achieve the longer-term ones. And the biggest thing I could leave today with is always revisit your money and look at, am I in the right places? Yes, the stock markets are going to go up and down. We're going to have good weeks and bad weeks. But at the end of the day, am I in the right position? Am I right where I want to be based on my risk? Not on somebody else's risk, but on my risk. And remember, there's a risk in not taking a risk. So sit down with your advisor and evaluate where you are today, and you will get to where you want to get to.
Great advice, Kelvin, as always. And thank you so much for a great show. And thank you for helping us navigate the retirement income conundrum today. Don't forget, you can always listen back to past shows on 640toronto.com and also at askkelvin.ca. That's askkelvin.ca. And you can call Kelvin anytime. Show has come to an end, but that doesn't mean that Kelvin is unreachable. You can still reach him during the week at 416 416-457-7526. That's 416-457-PLAN. And don't forget, you can ask him any question you want. You want to find out about your retirement plans. You want to find out about something short term, something long term. You just want a second opinion because your advisor's telling you something and you're thinking, well, that doesn't necessarily jive with what Kelvin just said. I want to find out what he meant by that. 416-457-7526. askkelvin.ca. Kelvin, have a great day. I hope you're going to be hitting the golf course. Stay hydrated.
Yes.
Out there.
Yes, thank you. Enjoy.
And to everyone out there as well, stay hydrated and enjoy this hot Sunday afternoon. This is Global News Radio, 640 Toronto.
The preceding was a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of the advertiser. Opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of Global News Radio 640 Toronto.